The following half-hour show is a paid political program and is not endorsed by this station, management, or staff.
The following program is brought to you by Excalibur Insurance Management Services.
Of course, being only 2 days from another election day, this Tuesday, November the 4th, and as we usually do on this show, we will be dedicating this show to that election. In that vein, we have two special guests joining us today. The first is a regular guest, Pennsylvania Senator Greg Rothman, who is also wearing the hat today as chairman of the Republican Party of Pennsylvania. Our second guest is a first-time guest, and that is Scott Presler, an American conservative activist who founded Early Vote Action, a company which goes by its acronym EVA, that encourages conservative Americans to register Republican and to vote early by mail-in ballot. Scott Presler was a very close personal friend of assassinated political leader Charlie Kirk. It was Kirk that mentored Presler, ushering him into national campaign work. Presler exemplifies the peaceful but tenacious approach Kirk himself took toward politics, arguing with leftists on many college campuses in the hope of changing their minds. Scott Presler was born in Jacksonville, Florida, a son of a United States Navy captain. Scott earned his criminal justice degree from George Mason University, a BS. Presler's work on behalf of President Donald Trump was credited with helping Trump carry Pennsylvania, as well as other states, Arizona and others, that Presler worked very hard in changing registrations. Shortly after her installation as the Republican National Committee chairwoman, Laura Trump, the president's daughter-in-law, expressed her interest in hiring Presler to lead the Republican Party's legal balloting harvesting efforts. We think you'll find today's show very interesting, and as well as take a little trip down memory lane, as Scott Presler will today remind us of the importance of Charlie Kirk's life and the impact it had on his life and the politics in America.
This is the Volpe Report, a weekly news and political interview show examining the latest local, state, and national issues with Chuck Volpe. Insightful, informative, controversial. The area's premier political talk show, the Volpe Report.
Welcome, Senator and Republican Chairman Greg Rothman, and welcome Scott Presler to the Volpe Report.
Thank you.
Let me start, Greg, because you've been on the show, 8, 10, 12 times, a lot of times through the years. My good friend, of course. And so I want to turn to Scott first. But before I do that, this is mainly for me. I want to do this. We've had some dim-witted scribes and talking heads on television just flat out disrespecting and taking political shots at a person I know you were very personally close to. He gave you effectively your start and made you understand the importance of registrations and going into campuses and doing all that you do. And that was your friend Charlie Kirk, who was tragically taken by a left-wing lunatic in September. So I just wanted, I think for this show's purposes, before we get into the other important stuff and with the senator, to talk about Charlie Kirk for a minute, the importance he, as a Christian, as a conservative, a dying breed in America, until someone like him and now you are doing the work, the Lord's work, I'll call it. So talk a little bit. I think our audience would want to know about your relationship and what you thought of him.
Well, I've knew Charlie since 2018. And what I think is so great and hasn't really been spoken about Charlie enough is the fact that he elevated so many other people. Yes, he had the Charlie Kirk show, but it wasn't just the Charlie Kirk show. It was the Charlie Kirk and Friends show. He had me speak on stage talking about my organization in Florida, in Detroit. He has elevated so many other voices and taken them with him. And I think really that's what made Charlie so special, is he wanted to create 1 million other Charlie Kirks. And as macabre as it sounds, I think truly that his legacy is going to be eternal, because that's what's happening right now. And we're seeing the fruits of all of the seeds that he has planted throughout the last decade, that those are starting as seedlings now, and those are going to turn into turning point action chapters. And those are going to lead into the 2028 and 2032 and beyond. The conservative movement is going to continue to grow. And so, Charlie, in part, I would not be here if it weren't for his mentorship and if it weren't for him elevating others. And again, I don't mean to take a somber tone, but I want to be very real with people that Charlie Kirk was just assassinated, as you said, by a left-wing lunatic. This was a person of Democrat ideology.
Of course.
And if Republicans don't vote this November, the very people that celebrated Charlie's assassination will win. Republicans, if you stay home this November, the people that celebrated his death, his murder, his assassination, they will be cheering again. And they will be laughing in our faces because they took our number one top conservative activists away from us. And then the Democrats are going to go, wow, Republicans don't even vote. Republicans don't come out. So I beg you, I encourage you, I urge you, make this election about honoring Charlie through positive action and voting.
Well said. I've heard you speak, so I'm not surprised. You're out there changing hearts and minds. I'm sure he looks down proudly on you specifically and the movement you joined with him. Your seedling, if you will, has developed into a full-grown oak, and it will be spreading chestnuts and planting others as you do wherever you go. Greg, as our Republican Commonwealth Chairman and my good friend and our Pennsylvania Senator, you're wearing a lot of hats now. Obviously, you don't have the relationship personally that Scott had, but you knew Charlie Kirk, and I'd like to get your thoughts as well.
I met Charlie in 2012 when he was 18 years old.
Wow,
and,
wow.
He was a great mutual friend of Foster Freeze, and Foster was a big supporter, and we had a lot of mutual friends. I was with Charlie at the inauguration, and his wife. I talked to him briefly, but I didn't have the same friendship that and certainly mentorship that Scott Presler had, who's doing an incredible job. But I did have an admiration for him and what he had done. And I give him all the credit, but he was, as Scott Presler just said, I mean, he was our number one voice. I mean, he was that person that could translate the Trump message even in a better way than I think President Trump has or had. And Scott's absolutely right. I mean, if he will have died in vain if we allow the Democrats to win and the leftists to win, and so get out and vote. And he would be telling you that too, right, Scott?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to add my own epitaph, if you would. I remember someone wrote to me a passage that was, I thought, profound. And what they talked about was leadership and the courage that leadership required. And I remember this specific quote. It was, "A leader stands and delivers when the darkness is overwhelming." And I think that can be said truly about Charlie Kirk, because I'm a Republican as I sit here now. For me to change to Republican in 2020, I saw darkness and dark clouds. I saw a work on elimination of free speech. I saw, if you read George Orwell's 1984 happening in real time in the United States of America, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I was with our mutual good friend, Greg. I was on my way to the studio to meet Vince Galco to shoot a show in March, I want to say 18th or 19th of 2020, and I got a call on my phone from my executive assistant on the way to Fox Studio, and the message was, "Chuck, the governor just shut down the state." I said, "What do you mean he shut down the state?" Like, he shut down the state and proceeded to destroy Pennsylvania. So at that time, Pennsylvania had a Democratic voter registration lead of almost 1 million in 2020. As we sit here today, and Greg and I just talked about, the registration has dissipated over 90%. We're now talking about 100,000 or so is how close it is between D's and R's. And as Greg pointed out, of likely voters, It's only 53,000 instead of 1 million. If people are wondering why Republicans are winning, if they're wondering why President Trump and Dave McCormick won, and that gets directly now to you, Scott, and talk about we talked about Turning Point in Charlie Kirk. You have EVA, is that correct?
Yes, earlyvoteaction.com.
That's your company, nonprofit. So talk about that and what you do with that and how you're changing hearts and minds and turning that into signatures and registrations and mail-in votes.
Thank you. Well, we are a political action committee, Early Vote Action, and we have 25 full-time staff right now in Pennsylvania. We had 14 full-time, but we just hired an additional 25 more for New Jersey because we are also working to flip the New Jersey governorship from blue to red, Jack Ciattarelli for governor. So why was Early Vote Action founded? Well, I remember that meeting that was in Music over in Lackawanna County, the home of Joe Biden over there. Yeah. And I was warning people because look, what happened in 2022? Let's be real. This is all factual information I'm presenting to you. In Arizona, 60% of machines went down on election day. When do Republicans vote? Election day. In Nevada in 2022, it snowed in a Republican county of Washoe, Reno County. We lost the Senate seat by 8,000 votes. When do Republicans vote? Election day. In Luzerne County, right next door to Lackawanna
I'm sitting in
County.
Luzerne County. Right here, the studio.
Wilkes-Barre, Kingston. They ran out of paper ballots on election day. My beautiful friends at home, when do Republicans vote? Election day. And I went, guys, Joe Biden at the time is going to get reelected as president unless Republicans change the way that we vote and approach elections with an all of the above approach. Meaning, yes, we're going to do mail-in voting. Yes, we're going to do early in-person voting. Yes, in states like California and Nevada, we're going to ballot harvest and fight fire with a gosh darn flamethrower. And of course, we are still going to utilize election day voting as well. And I think really what I'd like to share, I want people to know, we have made such progress in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Why do you think, as Senator Rothman / Chairman noted, that they are bringing President Obama to talk about the Supreme Court elections in Pennsylvania? The Democrats are petrified because whereas Democrats used to have a 6, 5, 7-1 advantage in mail-in votes, it's now down to less than 3-1. And let's talk about Bucks County for a second, a county that went for the first time since 1988 for Donald Trump by 300 votes, which we flipped from blue to red in 2024. In 2023, Democrats requested 50,000 mail-in ballots. Republicans requested 12,000, 50 to 12. This year, Democrats have requested 52,000. So they've hit their ceiling. Right. The best that they can do is basically 52 in Bucks County. Republicans are at 27,000. We jumped from 12 to 27 in 2 years' time by focusing on an all of the above approach and by getting people to understand the value of mail-in voting. And yes, it's because of people like Senator Rothman and Pat Poprick and Bucks County votes and everybody swimming and rowing in the same direction. But Republicans, turn in your ballots. I need you to flip over your ballot and vote no to retention this November. No to Doherty, Donahue, and Wecht. Game on.
Right, absolutely. And now let me turn to you, Senator. Put your chairman hat on. Well, I just have to mention that you know, right now, I mean, our government effectively, I'm not talking about the federal government, even the state, we're at a 120-day impasse. So we're going to be talking about that on another show. If
no
God
budget,
willing,
no retention.
What's that?
No budget, no retention.
Yes.
Right. Well, there you go. So the segue in, though, is we have this show will air this Sunday, November the 2nd, which is exactly 2 days before Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th. So based on what Scott had said, I will say this from my standpoint. I'm 65 years old. I've been, that I can remember, very politically aware since I was about 8. And tragically, it occurred with the assassination that I saw on TV of Bobby Kennedy in that California Ambassador Ballroom. Well, in the kitchen it was. And it had a profound effect on me because he was so young and I related to him. And a few years after that, as a young kid, I was knocking on doors with my dad when he would go on to get elected to the House of Representatives of Pennsylvania. So I've been very political my whole life. I have never in my lifetime seen a more concerted effort and a more high profile, for lack of a better word, retention yes-no vote in a judge's race in Pennsylvania or anywhere else for that matter that I heard about. So talk a little bit, Greg, quickly about the underpinning. The instrument of potentially that being successful is Scott Presler, but the chairmanship and your captainship of this issue, why is it so important to Republicans, and why are you so involved in a no vote for the Supreme Court retention, the three of them?
Yeah, so two things. First of all, they're all Democrats. So the Republican Party of Pennsylvania, we've never advocated voting for Democrats. In fact, our job is to say vote against Democrats. So just so happens there's not a Republican on the other side because this is a yes or no, up or down. But you talked about what drove you to switch from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party. I was in the legislature when the Governor Wolf, in his own definition, enacted these draconian measures. And the legislature went to court. There's actually a case, Friends of Danny DeVito. He was a House candidate, a Republican House candidate, that couldn't knock on doors because of the shutdown order. He couldn't literally campaign. The Democrats talk about saving democracy. Governor Wolf and then the Supreme Court ruled in his favor, Governor Wolf's favor, that you couldn't knock on doors. I mean, you couldn't actually campaign for re-election or for election in this case. And there were multiple decisions like this that they've made. Bill Cosby, I grew up watching him on TV, right? He was a monster. He sexually drugged and sexually assaulted multiple women. This Supreme Court let him out of prison after he admitted to drugging and sexually assaulting women. This is the court that created all the havoc in 2017 with our congressional maps, which led to the Democrats winning the House of Representatives in 2018, which led to the impeachment of Donald Trump twice. So they don't deserve to be reelected even if they were Republicans, but they're not. And that's why Scott Presler's was the first to approach me about it. We have for 9 months been working on this. Chuck, the Philadelphia Inquirer quoted Malcolm Kenyatta, the Democratic National Vice Chairman, the other day, saying this is the most important election in the country that no one has been paying attention to. Well, let me tell you, Scott Presley's since January, right, Scott? Probably since January. The party's been focused on it since February. We just need Republicans and right-minded Democrats and independents to show up to vote on Tuesday and turn your ballot over, vote no on the three Democratic Supreme Court justices.
We're going to take a very short break, and when I come back, I have my own personal story directly on point. I am a lawyer and follow politics. Constitutional law was one of my favorite subjects. We'll be right back.
County government is broken. Endless lawsuits have left us without a third commissioner for months. A rushed reassessment has left people frustrated and confused. A 33% tax increase with no budget accountability. If we keep electing politicians from the same political machine, we'll keep getting failed results. I'll put people first, cut waste, and demand transparency. On November 4th, vote Chet Murley for Lackawanna County Commissioner. Together, we can fix this.
Welcome back. Again, we're here today with a political dynamo, activist, former protege of Charlie Kirk, Scott Presler, and Senator Greg Rothman, the Republican chairman of the Republican Party of Pennsylvania. As we were talking about right before break, I said I had my own little version of this. I was doing shows all during that time in 2020. That's when I switched party registrations, all during that time because of what Democratic Governor Tom Wolf did. But one of the things, you mentioned that case, there was another issue that was issue also that the Supreme Court handled, Greg. Scott may not know this from 2020. He had basically destroyed Pennsylvania month after month after month. People couldn't visit dying family members in hospitals, Scott. That's how bad it was. They couldn't go to their funerals. And we found out later it was all for naught. It didn't even matter. He didn't accomplish anything, but he did it. So our legislature, there was a law, very clear statute that was as clear as crystal day that said that a governor's emergency powers, because obviously you can't let any governor decide forever they're going to take emergency powers and run amok. So there was a specific Pennsylvania statute, you'll remember, Greg, that allowed, this is June, end of June of 2020. He had already been over 3 months destroying Pennsylvania with impunity. The joint resolution statute said that with a joint resolution of the Pennsylvania Senate and Pennsylvania House, they could strip the governor's emergency power and end it after a 90-day period, which had passed. And you guys did it in the General Assembly. Joint resolution done. The governor appeals to the Commonwealth and then emergency appeal application to the Pennsylvania
King's Court. Remember, it's called King's Court.
It was a
King's Supreme Court.
It was a King's Court, King's Bench. King's Bench type motion. They go right for an emergency, the governor for relief, and makes the argument that, well, oh, that's all well and good, and of course they have that, but they still, like any other law, need the signature of the governor on it, like you would do a normal bill. Well, of course, the legislative intent was clear. The only reason you would strip the governor of power in an emergency joint resolution, extraordinary event, would be to take his power. You obviously don't need the governor to sign it. That would be ridiculous. And our Pennsylvania Supreme Court overruled the Commonwealth Court and decided, yep, the governor still gets to sign it. How I didn't get disbarred, I called almost every name in the book. On air, on TV, they violated their oath. They should be impeached. Not getting into the politics of it, just simply, the statute was crystal clear. It's a slap in the face to anybody that has an IQ above 12 to suggest the governor would have to sign the bill that strips him of power. So your comment on that, Greg. That's how bad this Supreme Court was.
You're absolutely right. And they were partisan. We want judges that are going to be fair. Judges that call balls and strikes, that uphold the Constitution. These three are so partisan that's we have multiple rulings like that. I mean, they found that voter ID was unconstitutional. My goodness, I got to show my ID to check out a book at the library. My kids do, and yet they ruled against preemption, which protects the constitutional right to own guns. That local municipalities like Philadelphia and Harrisburg don't pass laws saying you can't have a gun here. Protect yourself. They ruled that the law that we passed wasn't constitutional. So this is our chance. This is your chance to send a message to the judges. By the way, it's a 10-year term. They get a 10-year extension of the term, which I don't think anybody deserves a 10-year extension. So this is your chance on Tuesday to show up and vote and send them a message that we want judges that are fair and that are not partisan.
Well, one final comment before I turn back to Scott. One thing they wrought in their reign of tyranny, for lack of a better word, is the following year, you guys in the legislature angered and incensed at what they did in the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, the Democrats. You put 2 constitutional amendments, not easy thing to do, on the ballot. And the voters of Pennsylvania heard that loud and clear and overwhelmingly voted yes to those amendments to strip the governor of power after 21 days. So the reign of terror will never destroy the lives that he destroyed in Pennsylvania with the complicity of the Supreme Court ever again. So, so the votes are there, Scott. No one thought that could happen. Oh, you'll never get a constitutional amendment passed taking power from our governor. Well, it happened, and it can happen again. So, Scott.
That was 2021, the same year that we also elected Kevin Brobson to the Supreme Court as a Republican. So no, we are very aware that Republicans can win in municipal elections. And that's why I'm focused on these issues. To anyone that wants justice and accountability, Doherty, Donahue, and Wecht locked you down during COVID. Doherty, Donahue, and Wecht allowed mail-in ballots to come 3 days after Election Day. After Election Day in 2020, Doherty, Donahue, and Wecht jerry-rigged and gerrymandered your congressional maps, which led to the impeachment of President Donald Trump. And so I ask you, vote no to retention to Doherty, Donahue, and Wecht. Then also no to DeBow and no to Wojcik. Those are all 5 Democrats that you at home can flip over your ballot to fire your judges. turn over your ballot to term limit your judges. Why do I say that over and over? Because in 2023, when Carolyn Carluccio for Supreme Court lost her election, we had 440,000 people that voted for Supreme Court that didn't vote on retention elections on the back of the ballot. There is a 440,000 person undervote when it comes to retention. So vote for Maria Batista on the front of your ballot. Vote for Matt Wolford on the front of your ballot, and then turn over your ballot and with glee hold to account Doherty, Donahue, and Wecht by voting no to retention. And also, this will make you very happy. Guys, Governor Shapiro wants to run for president. Hear me loudly and clearly. Nothing will anger and trigger Democrat disgraced Governor Shapiro more than for you, the voters of Pennsylvania, to remove 3 of his cronies off of the Supreme Court that he wants to rig his presidential election in 2028 for him. Nothing would anger Obama more than for you, the voters of Pennsylvania, to vote no. So this is like killing 5 birds with 1 stone. Peacefully. You're going to remove 5 Democrats with 1 ballot. Get it done. Go vote.
Well, I can't think of a better postscript to this show. Our audience is getting the benefit of what I got seeing you speak in person. And again, your friend is looking down, I know, with a smile on his face at what you continue to do. And the line of fire you put yourself in to do it, as he did. And patriots have died for this country from its founding, and he is one of them. There's no doubt about that. But Greg, a last comment from you as our chairman on Election Day.
Yeah, I just want to thank Scott Presler and thank you, Chuck. And it's we don't have off-year elections; we have odd-year elections. But if you think about it, if a third of the people are going to vote, that means your 1 vote is actually worth 3 votes. So get out and vote. Get there early. Make a plan, like Scott has suggested. Take your friends to vote. Now, these elections are very important. I mean, probably more important than our big national elections, because we also have school board elections and local elections, DAs. So get out and vote. It's going to make a difference. And thank you for all you do, both of you guys.
Well, thanks. And I'll end with one final comment in my last sign off as a shout out to you, Scott. I read where you were, along with your staff and volunteers, at the Bucks County Justice Center passing out shirts while you were signing people up and doing all that had freedom on them, which was the exact same shirt that Charlie Kirk was wearing when he was viciously murdered. So I thought that was, again, another wonderful act for what was a great American. So thank you for all you do for the country, because in allowing Republicans to have a voice as you have done, you've accomplished an awful lot. I do what I can here from this studio in my own humble way. Thanks again for what both of you do, and good seeing you, my friend, Greg. Take care.
Thanks.
Godspeed, Scott.
Thank you.